Hello and welcome to Courts Today by Live Law. Let us get to today's top legal headlines. On the Waqf Amendment Act challenge hearing before the Supreme Court, the centre today said that it won't change registered or notified waqfs, including waqfs by user. A Supreme Court bench has delivered a split verdict on action against an advocate on record and an advocate for misconduct in filing a petition. The Supreme Court has told the states and union territories to form swift response protocols for road accident victims and enforce drivers' 8-hour daily work. In the West Bengal SSC scam case, the Supreme Court has allowed class 9 to 12 teachers to continue till fresh appointments. The apex court is set to consider a practicing Muslim man's plea to be governed by Indian Succession Act instead of Sharia law. The top court has proposed to impose costs on Uttar Pradesh police for filing FIR over a civil dispute. And the Supreme Court has asked the High Court committees to examine grievances regarding VC access to lawyers and litigants. I am Urvashi Chauhan with your daily roundup of legal updates from across the country. For detailed reading, you can always visit www.livelaw.in. But before I get to the details, here is an exciting opportunity for judiciary aspirants. Live Law Academy, Live Law's judiciary coaching initiative, has opened registrations for its May batch. Now you can choose from two tailored courses. First, Jessup 2.0. A comprehensive 18-month online program covering everything you need to crack the judiciary exam, taught by an expert panel including retired judges. And second, Jessup Lite, a flexible weekday-only program for those who prefer a structured yet lighter approach. Sign up today to get an exclusive 25% early bird discount. Plus, enjoy free Live Law subscriptions, case compilations, and much more. Don't miss this opportunity and enroll today at www.livelawacademy.in. Starting with an update from the Supreme Court, which today continued hearing the petitions challenging the Waqf Amendment Act 2025. As you know, yesterday the top court bench comprising Chief Justice of India Sanjeev Khanna, Justices Sanjay Kumar and KV Vishwanathan was about to pass an interim order stating that no Waqf property, including Waqf by user, will be denotified, that non-Muslims will not be appointed to Waqf boards or the Central Waqf Council except ex officio members, and that proviso regarding the collector's determination of a Waqf property's status would not apply. However, on fervent requests by Solicitor General Tushar Mehta for more time, the matter was heard today instead. Well, today the Solicitor General made some key statements before the bench. He said that the stay of a legislation, whether directly or indirectly, is an extraordinary measure and cannot be done based on a mere tentative reading of the provisions. He requested for 7 days' time to present some more material and assured that till the next date of hearing, no non-Muslims will be appointed to Central Waqf Council or state Waqf boards under the amended provisions. That all Waqfs, whether by deed or by user, and that are registered or notified will not be denotified or altered till further orders. SG Mehta submitted that the amendments were in response to lacks of representations and aimed at protecting innocent people whose private lands were wrongly marked as Waqf. CJI Khanna made it clear that while the court does not ordinarily stay legislation, the current situation demands preserving the status quo to avoid infringing on people's rights. He reiterated that while the court sees positive elements in the amendments, drastic changes should be avoided while the matter is sub judice. The court today recorded the statements made by the Solicitor General and posted the matter for further hearing on 5th May at 2 p.m. It also renamed the case title to In Reference Waqf Amendment Act. Stay tuned with us to know the outcome of this important matter. In the next update, the top court today delivered a split verdict on whether disciplinary action should be taken against an advocate on record and an assisting advocate for filing a petition that seriously suppressed facts before the court. As you may recall, the issue arose when the court discovered that the second special leave petition was filed to circumvent the earlier direction requiring the petitioner to surrender. The bench noted prima facie contempt but held off an action after several senior lawyers pleaded for leniency, warning that it could ruin the careers of the advocates involved. In the verdict delivered today, a bench of Justices Bela M. Trivedi and Satish Chandra Sharma agreed that the advocates had failed in their duty to the court and undermined the institution's dignity but they disagreed on the punishment. According to Justice Bela Trivedi, the AOR filed applications without proper authority and suppressed key facts, which was serious misuse of court process, and also he did not give honest legal advice. Justice Trivedi declined to initiate contempt or refer the matter to the BCI, but insisted that some penalty was necessary. Thus, she directed that the name of the AOR be suspended from the register for 1 month and the assisting advocate deposit 1 lakh rupees with SCORA for advocates' welfare. Justice Satish Chandra Sharma, on the other hand, held that such a punishment would be too harsh, especially given the advocate's clean track record. Accepting the apologies, the judge warned the advocates to not repeat their conduct in future. Well, now because of the split verdict, the matter has been referred to Chief Justice Sanjeev Khanna for appropriate orders. Stay tuned. In the next update, let me tell you the top court has issued strong directions to all states and union territories to create swift emergency response systems for road accident victims. This comes in response to the growing concern over delayed medical help and rescue efforts, which the court called a serious public issue. A bench of Justices Abhay S. Oak and Ujjal Bhuiyan observed that road accidents are increasing and often victims don't receive timely care. In many cases, the victims may not be visibly injured but are trapped inside vehicles, which requires immediate and structured action from authorities. While the applicant in this particular case had suggested 6 specific points for setting up protocols, the court chose not to issue a writ at this stage. However, it made clear that every state must develop its own system suitable to local needs. The court has given a 6-month deadline to all states and union territory governments to take effective steps and submit their responses. In addition to emergency response systems, the Supreme Court also addressed a related issue: the working hours of drivers of transport vehicles. Let me tell you, under Section 91 of the Motor Vehicles Act and the Motor Transport Workers Rules, drivers are not supposed to work more than 8 hours a day or 48 hours a week. But the court noted that these laws are being ignored, which contributes to driver fatigue and more accidents. To tackle this, the court has directed the Ministry of Road Transport and Highways to hold meetings with all state and union territory departments. These meetings should focus on how to ensure proper enforcement of driver work limits. The ministry has also been asked to consider whether penalty provisions can be used to make the rules more effective, saying that without deterrence, the law will not be followed. All states and union territories now have to send in their compliance reports to the ministry by the end of August. The ministry will then compile a full report and present it to the Supreme Court. Moving ahead, the Apex Court has allowed assistant teachers of classes 9th to 12th in West Bengal who were not found involved in the 2016 recruitment scam to continue in their jobs until fresh appointments are made. The court said this decision was taken to ensure students don't suffer, even though the entire recruitment process of 2016, as you already know, was declared fraudulent and beyond repair. Earlier this month, the top court had upheld the Calcutta High Court's cancellation of nearly 25,000 appointments made during the 2016 recruitment process. However, this relief granted today does not apply to Group C and D employees, as the court noted that a large number of them were found to be tainted. The court has now directed the West Bengal government and the School Service Commission to complete the entire recruitment process for assistant teachers of classes 9 to 12th by 31st December this year. Publish advertisements for new recruitments by 31st May and file an affidavit before 31st May confirming that the advertisement has been published. And if the state or the SSC fails to meet these deadlines, the current relief order will be automatically cancelled. A Muslim man has approached the Supreme Court seeking a declaration that the Indian Succession Act should apply to him instead of Muslim personal law, also known as Sharia law, when it comes to inheritance and succession matters. This plea has been filed by Naushad KK, who is a practicing Muslim. A bench led by Chief Justice Sanjeev Khanna and Justice Sanjay Kumar heard the matter. During the hearing, the court noted that a similar case titled Sufia PM versus Union of India is already pending. In that case, the petitioner has renounced Islam and is asking for the Indian Succession Act to apply rather than Muslim personal law. Senior advocate Prashant Padmanabhan, appearing in the Sufia PM case, told the court that while both cases raise questions about the application of succession law, they are different in nature. In Naushad's case, the petitioner continues to follow Islam, while in the earlier case, the petitioner has left the religion. Padmanabhan also pointed out that another related case filed by the Quran Sunnat Society in 2016 is still pending. That case challenges Section 58 of the Indian Succession Act, which currently excludes excludes Muslims from its scope. In the Sufia PM matter, the union government had informed the court in October 2024 that it is up to the parliament to decide whether Muslims should be brought under the Indian Succession Act. So far, the court has not taken a final view in any of these cases, but they could have a wide implication on how inheritance laws apply to individuals from different states in India. Stay tuned. The top court has come down heavily on Uttar Pradesh police for treating a civil dispute as a criminal case. The court proposed to impose a cost of 50,000 on the state of UP for this misuse of legal process and suggested that the amount be recovered from the police officers responsible. The bench, comprising Chief Justice Sanjeev Khanna and Justice Sanjay Kumar, was hearing a plea to quash criminal charges under IPC sections 420, 406, 354, 504 and 506, which deal with cheating, criminal breach of trust, outraging a woman's modesty, and criminal intimidation. The petitioner here was accused of allegedly cheating another of 19 lakhs by promising to execute a sale deed for a property and not fulfilling it. Earlier, the petitioner had gone to the High Court under Section 482 CRPC to get the charge sheet and criminal proceedings quashed, but the High Court dismissed the petition. When the matter came before the Supreme Court, the CJI sharply criticized the practice of filing criminal cases for what are essentially civil disputes. He said that filing a criminal case for civil wrongs is unacceptable and warned that the state must pay a cost for such misuse of police power. He also told the state councils that 50,000 rupees should be recovered from the officers involved. The bench has reserved its final order but has extended the stay on the trial proceedings for another 3 weeks. This is not the first time the court has expressed such concern. Just last week, the CJI had called out Uttar Pradesh police for similar actions in another case, calling it a complete breakdown of the rule of law. He had warned that if this is continued, the court would start imposing monetary penalties on the state. And lastly, the Supreme Court has today disposed of multiple petitions that were originally filed during COVID-19 pandemic seeking open access to courtroom proceedings through virtual court links. A bench of Justices Vikram Nath and Sandeep Mehta ruled that this issue falls under the administrative domain and not the judicial side. The court has given liberty to the petitioners here to approach the concerned high courts and their respective e-committees to address their grievances. The petitioner had argued that lawyers and litigants whose matters are not listed for the day are unable to access virtual links to courtrooms even though these links are provided in daily cause lists. He claimed that this violates the right to access open court proceedings, especially since in-person courts are generally open to the public. He gave the example of the Supreme Court, where static virtual links are available for all functioning benches. Anyone can watch even if they are not arguing in a case. Their mic and video remains muted, but access is not restricted. However, in many high courts, he said, clicking on such links leads to restricted access, effectively shutting out unlisted lawyers and litigants. The Petitioners' Council also raised some other issues, like in some high courts, judges' microphones are muted on virtual links, making their comments inaudible. The petitioner claimed that this violates the 2018 Swapnil Tripathi ruling, where the Supreme Court had allowed live streaming of proceedings in the interest of transparency. Additional Solicitor General Vikramjit Banerjee, appearing for the respondents, noted that the petitions are rooted in the pandemic context and times have changed since then. Well, Justice Nath clarified that such operational issues should be handled administratively and not by court orders. Accordingly, the court disposed of the case, stating that the matter must be taken up on the administrative side and that petitioners were free to assist relevant e-committees such as those under the Supreme Court, High Courts, NCMP or SCMS by submitting supporting materials.